Welcome everybody to this World Satsanga in December 2024. And if you can remember from the lectures in October and November, we were talking about the checksum principle and the road to collectivism and how they both link into each other. Well, this leads me into considering karma again. We seem to brush on karma every now and then, and karma is something which we can very easily accrue without even thinking about it, because in this low frequency environment, and certainly within the low frequencies that we've achieved recently, the ability to think, behave and act in a low frequency way is something which we slip into without even realizing. And so it's important for us to revisit the karma principle and what it means. Karma is not just about cause and effect in its entirety, although certain religions try to describe it as that. For example, if I do something bad to Aunt Maud, then Maud has to do something bad to me to negate the karmic link between us. It's not just about that. It's about addiction to being in the physical universe. Every frequency within the physical universe has a level of karma potentially attached to it. Now, clearly, when we move up the frequencies, the ability to understand who and what we are also affects the amount of karma we can accrue. So the higher frequency that we are, the chance of collecting karma is reduced significantly. So karma, or karmic content, is basically addiction to the need to be here for one of two different reasons. One is we're addicted to sensory stimulus. One is such as sex, or we're adrenaline junkie, or we like to have certain thought processes, for example, such as being in high status environments, being great leaders, or not as the case may be, having material wealth, having the ability to be charismatic, having lots of material objects around us, being very influential. All of these things are low frequency thoughts, and there's associated behaviours and actions with them. But also on top of that, there's the need to come back to navigate in the physical environment without being affected by these different things. You know, it's a bit like being in a sweet shop. You can go into a sweet shop and just look around and observe them, understand what the component parts are of each of the sweets that makes them particularly different, such as chocolates, may have ginger in them, may have walnuts in them, may have raisins in them, or there's other hard-boiled sweets that might be based on buttermilk or caramel, those sorts of things. We can walk in the shop, look at them all, and not buy a single sweet. Another way of thinking about navigating in the physical, but not being of the physical, is going through a shopping mall. If the objective is to walk through the shopping mall as a shortcut, then we may be distracted by the number of different products that are for sale in the different shops that are in the shopping mall. So if we can walk through the shopping mall without being distracted and without buying a new pair of trainers or a new shirt or a new coat, or in some instances new handbags or new items of jewellery, then we've managed to be able to navigate through it without being attracted to it. So there's two major functions of what karma is. The need to come back to negate any karma, any thought processes, any desires to experience the similar things again, because we're addicted to that thought process, we're addicted to that level of status, we're addicted to eating these different types of food, we're addicted to drugs, we're addicted to alcohol, we're addicted to having beautiful partners, we're addicted to having nice houses or high levels of education or high levels of status. And there's the others where we are needing to find a way in which we can remove those karmic links. So learning to navigate through the physical without being of the physical is part of what karma is. So if we consider that karma is anything that can distract us and can create a thought process which could be collectively created as well. I mean, group karma is something which is particularly difficult to disassociate from, because we remain associated whilst the last member is associated with the potential that we've all created. So, for instance, gossip. Gossip is one of the most effective ways of accruing karma, and it's one of the most effective ways of accruing group karma. I mean, how many times have we been in a group together and we've talked about something or someone, and then somebody else chips in, and it's always negative? That is a way of creating group karma, and a group karma not only with each other but with the individual we're talking about. Another thing is being better than somebody else. Doing things that puts us in a position of superiority compared to somebody else by stealing their work, for example. That's another way of gaining karma. Any function that puts us above somebody else and we actively do it is a function of karma, because it's only a function of being here in the physical. So if we can stand back and observe ourselves in a detached way, in a considered way, and then consider how we are going to respond to a situation, and then realize that our potential response could be karmic, then we're starting to, in a rather mechanical way, navigate through our incarnation without accruing karma. Eventually, this process of doing the right thing, doing the karmic free thing, not entering into gossip, not entering into an argument, not stealing somebody else's work, or, for instance, racing into the car park spot before somebody else because we want to have that car park spot and they might get there before us. Not worrying about doing a better job than somebody else, or being successful in achieving a new role or promotion is the way forwards in terms of negating karma. When we are doing something incorrect karmically, that effect, that experience comes back to us. If we're not paying attention to how we're responding to different circumstances and the environments within that circumstance, then it affects us negatively because we've responded inappropriately or incorrectly. Maybe we've been over defensive. Maybe we've entered into an argument. Maybe we've entered into gossip. Maybe we've entered into something where we benefit detrimentally. If we can observe how we've interacted and then with hindsight, so to speak, consider that, if I'm in that situation again with that individual or those sorts of individuals in this sort of environment, I won't respond that way this time. I'll respond in a way which is neutral or is more spiritual or more metaphysical. Then we are creating a way in which we can no longer be karmically attached to that situation, those individuals, that circumstance in the environment. So we can start to navigate through our incarnation by being in the physical, but not of the physical. So addiction to being here and being affected by those around us as a function of the low frequency are two of the major ways in general. That's like an overall statement of how we can accrue karma, but how we can spot ourselves accruing karma as well. So we can use these things as a warning sign, as an alarm signal. So think about how you think, behave, and act. Take the considered approach. Don't respond instantaneously. Think about how your response is going to be taken by those in the group of individuals that you're potentially part of and interacting with. Think about how you're interacting with the environment. Yeah? If you see an earthworm in the ground that you're digging, place the earthworm somewhere else in a safe place and not put your spade through it just simply because it got in the way. Yeah? If you see an animal in distress, take it to the vet. Pay for its treatment. If you see a person who needs help, help them. help them in a way which is going to be beneficial, and that they can build upon that help. Work in a way that is going to create dharma, positive karma. Dharma is the way to creating a high frequency thought process, high frequency thinking, behaving and acting. So you're choosing the better option, the good route, rather than the negative route or the low frequency route. Think about how you can interact with others and the environment and create dharma rather than karma, the route to higher frequency existence. Remember, every individual on this planet is a soul who's in an evolutionary cycle and who is struggling with being here basically in an alone sense. Although we're interacting with people, we may be married to people, we may be partnerships with people, in effect, we are individualized and temporarily alone because we're no longer in a communion-based sense because of the low frequencies here. The link between us and our higher self, our true energetic self, God, head or over soul, all those words mean the same thing, is reduced down to a mere trickle. And so we start to become body associated and environment associated, career associated. All of these things are a function of low frequency, existing in a low frequency environment. So think of these other people not as vagrants or as thieves or robbers, but individuals who are struggling to overcome this low frequency environment. And maybe they're not doing as good a job as you might be. But don't use that as a potential for ego, because that's also karmic. Some people will learn by telling them what to do. Most people don't. So be the good example. Show by example, and that's not forcing your example on people. That's just being the good example and doing the right thing, and people will notice it. And they'll see that you're a happy person. You're creating heaven on earth because you're not getting involved in the low frequency thoughts, behaviors and actions that low frequencies can create. You're not creating negativity. You're not creating karma for yourself, the need to come back to experience these things again and try to master them. You will have mastered it and therefore no longer need to be here. So think about how you can be the good example, how you can, in your everyday life, interact with individuals in circumstances, in environments, in a way which is not only neutral, but also creates positive karma or dharma. And we will create a mature civilization, because this is also part of the road to collectivism. Everything I've talked about in the last 3 lectures is linked together. Everything that talked about in these last 3 lectures gives us the ability to become a mature civilization, to ascend the frequencies, to move beyond the need to incarnate in the gross physical, or indeed later in any frequency within the physical universe. Let's move on to the questions and answers. Well, in October, if you remember, I promised that we do an end-of-year meditation based upon connecting with the origin. So that's what we're going to do right now. So let's just sit in our meditative posture, either sitting on the ground in full or half lotus, or just with your legs crossed, or kneeling if you prefer that. I know some Zen meditation techniques require kneeling, or just sitting in a straight-backed chair with your feet flat on the ground, your back and your neck aligned straight, your hands palm uppermost on your upper thighs, and your eyes gently closed and focused on the origin of the spiritual or the third eye, which is in between the 2 eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. Okay, let's just relax. Everybody relax. Okay, good. So what I want you to do now is visualize or use your mentally spoken word to achieve the same thing. That you are in a grassy area And in this grassy area you see a lift. You also see that the lift door is open. So walk towards the lift door. As you get close to the lift door, you see that I am there, beckoning you in, calling you to come in. And you go inside the lift and you see thousands upon thousands of people who are all joined together in this event space, participating in this meditation. So it's not just the group who are here now in this World Satsanga, it's everybody who ever will listen to this Satsanga and therefore connect by participating in this meditation and being in the same event space. So I close the door and I press the button with the number 408 on it. And the lift rises up through the frequencies from the gross physical, from the third frequency up to the fourth, and then accelerates to 6, 8 and 10, and accelerates again to 20 and 30 and 40 and 50, and then accelerates again to 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, and slows down dramatically at 400, 402, 404, 406, and slows down again, 407, and then 408. We're just going to stay here for a moment because we need to just get used to the frequencies here. This is the highest of the frequencies associated with this particular location within the source. This is the highest of the frequencies of the structure of energy that the source's sentience occupies, and as, shall we say, compartmentalized and occupied with smaller individualized units of itself to experience, learn, and subsequently evolve by interacting with every aspect, every small nanoscopic aspect of the structure of this space. Every consideration, circumstance, environment, interaction with other aspects of sentience in all of the different environments that are created in this particular space. This is the multiverse, and we are now on the 408th frequency, which is the 397th universe. I'm going to just dissolve most of our lift so we can get a better feeling. So I dissolve the roof, I dissolve the front doors, I dissolve the right hand wall of the lift where all the buttons are that take us to the different frequencies together. I take us to the left hand wall where I dissolve that, and then I remove the rear wall where I dissolve that. But I leave the floor of the lift in this instance together. And we can see all around us, or feel, or experience a state of beingness associated with this particular universal environment, which is very high frequency. This is the 12th frequency of the third subdimensional component of the 12th full dimension. I move in a location and a direction that is imperceivable, but it's not specifically in a location that you would expect. As we get closer and closer to this destination of this location and this direction I'm going in, we start to see a curve in the space. As we get closer and closer to this curve, it starts to straighten out, becoming longer and longer rather than curved. As we get towards this curve that's now straight and looks like it's completely flat, we get closer and closer, we see that it's basically substanceless. As we get close to it, we can start to see it, an oscillation, like a disturbance in the visualization of the environment around us. This disturbance is simply the demarcation line between the highest of the frequencies within the multiverse, the 12th frequency and the third subdimensional component of the 12th full dimension, and the lowest of the structure associated with the other level of structure, the zones, that the source's sentience occupies. So I move the whole lift platform and all those thousands of individual souls, incarnate souls that are with us through this demarcation line. It's a little bit like seeing laser light, flattened out or rastered laser light shining through a smoky room. So we just see it as if it's got substance but actually has no substance. So we move through it quite easily. Our collective heads move through it, our shoulders move through it, our upper bodies move through it, our lower arms and our lower bodies move through it, our hips move through it, our legs move through it, and our ankles and our feet, and the floor of the lift moves through it, until when we look over the side of the lift floor, we see that there's spheres within spheres within spheres, all within the same sphere in the same space. Everything is in the same space, just separated out by frequential structure at these levels, these first three levels of the structure, not just of the multiverse or the source whose sentience occupies it, but also the origin. We are now in the structure of space that is purely occupied by the source's sentience. Clearly the source occupies this space in the multiverse as well, and part of that occupation is us, our true energetic selves, us as aspects or smaller aspects or projected aspects of sentience from those true energetic selves, and any shards that we would have created, and any other souls of different genres and different levels of evolution. We have to go in a different direction though. We have to go outside of this environment, because this is just inside the environment, this sphere of energy and structured space that's occupied by the sentience of the source. So I'm going to take us outside of the source, something that I've never done with anybody before. So you all collectively are honoured in being, as I am when I move outside of the source, honoured in being able to experience the environment with your sentience that is within an area that none of us normally exist within, which is the above and beyond the multiversal environment, but also above and beyond the zones that are occupied by the sentience that is the source. So I move our lift's floor, our platform, in a completely random direction. And eventually again we get to another area of demarcation, which again looks like another, not straight line, but sort of wavy line, but still in a curve, a huge, infinitesimally long curve. Infinitesimally large. So again we get towards it. And the closer we get, these wobbly or wavy curved line straightens out again and becomes almost flat. But this time we can see a difference in how it appears. It doesn't appear to have anything like the illustration we had with the first demarcation line moving out of the multiverse into that space occupied by the source's sentience. This is something else. We're moving out or going to move out, of the highest of the levels of structure associated with the zones and therefore associated with the source. So I move the platform through it. And as we move through this demarcation line, in the same way we go through from our top of our head all the way down through the body to the feet, and then the lift floor goes through it as well. It's like we're transformed. We are no longer in the source. We are no longer part of the source. We are external to the source, a location where only other source entities exist and exist. Non-captive and pure exist. And of course, the sentience associated with the origin. The origin sentience pervades vast volumes of this volume of structured space. And so we have to consider that we're going to be part of something significantly larger than our source, our creator. That volume of sentience, that individualized smaller volumes of sentience to become our higher selves, our true energetic selves, which of course in turn individualize smaller volumes of sentience. This is what we are in our incarnate state. I send a message out to the origin, who instantaneously responds and is both surprised and delighted that so many aspects or volumes of sentience from the source are in this space beyond the source. Almost instantaneously, a sphere of energy appears and therefore engulfs us. This sphere of energy dissipates instantaneously, for it was simply a carrier for the sentience of the origin that was existing in this location within structured space. Although it appears to be separate, it's actually connected. It was only the energy that it was using as a vehicle that was separating it from the rest of origin sentience. This sentience not only engulfs us, it is us. We are the sentience of the source, which has become the sentience of the origin. As we connect with the origin, we become expansive, beyond expansive. Everything is known. Everything is experienced. All of the different experiences that the origin has had, or its sentience has had, become known, even if we can't understand it. All of the experiences that the sources have had becomes known, and the smaller individualized aspects or volumes of sentience that they've created, in our instance, with our source entity, the true energetic selves, and therefore us, is known. From our perspective, it's overload. Omniscience and omnipresence is overload because we're still associated with the source and their smaller volume of sentience, and therefore our smaller processing capability, whilst also being connected to the origin. So although we are the origin, albeit temporarily in this instance, we are the origin in reality, because the sentience that is the source is the individualized volume of sentience from the origin. So it's just like we've moved locations or moved volumes of sentience. Connection with the origin is beyond understanding, but it can be experienced on our level. So just allow yourselves to be the origin. Allow whatever information comes to you to be part of you. Don't try to intellectualize it or rationalize it or use logic to understand it. Simply allow it to become you, to be you, and to you to be it. So we're going to stay here now, being one with the origin. At this point, you can ask the origin any questions and it will give you the answers in any way possible that you'll be able to understand. I will say, though, that it's easy to lose oneself in such vast sentience. So state within yourself on a regular basis that you are whole and that you are one. And although you're now in communion with the origin, you have the capacity to decouple and therefore return, when requested, back to the source. Stay alert, aware and awake, and whole and one. We'll stay here for enough time to let you become the origin. Every now and then I'll just jog your memory to be whole and one. Stay alert, aware and awake. Don't forget to enter into dialogue with the origin, because you are the origin. Just remember. All you have to do is remember. Because the questions you are about to ask have already been asked and already been answered, already been experienced. So in being in communication, in communion with the origin, you are the origin. So all you have to do is remember. Focus on what you want to remember, and the memory will come back. Don't try to remember everything. Just focus on something that you feel will be beneficial to you in your human state, your human incarnate state. Or just be open and ask for whatever is relevant to your evolutionary progression is presented to you as a memory. Don't forget to stay alert, aware and awake, and whole and one. Try to maintain your individuality whilst you're in communion as the origin. Note how expansive you feel. Note how anything that you want to understand, you understand. Note how language doesn't mean anything to you, it's just experience that makes the difference. Language is slow. Interaction, understanding, evolution is fast. Don't forget to stay alert, aware and awake and whole and one. Maintain your individuality. It's quite intoxicating to be in communion with such sentience, such beyond expansive sentience, of which the source is just a minute aspect of individualized sentience from the origin in its own right. We'll just stay here for a couple more minutes before I bring you back. Use these last couple of minutes productively. Allow yourself to be the origin. Because in essence you are the origin, as you are the source, as you are your true energetic self. So now it's time for us to go back to where we normally exist. So I thank the origin for its communion, and it's allowing us to be conscious of its state of beingness that we can achieve in communion with the origin. And so instantaneously that which we are part of disappears. And again, as we did at the start of the communion, we see a large sphere of sentience and energy combined that is the origin, or part of the origin. It's localized sentience. Move away from us and then move into a different location beyond our perceptual range. So all of us, the thousands of us that are on this, the floor of this, the platform associated with this lift, are now alone in empty space. I move our lift back towards the demarcation line that is the difference between the structured space that the origin sentience exists and pervades within, and that which is individualized, structured space, the sentience that is the source occupies. So again, we see this demarcation line appear, this slightly curved but unstraight line coming towards us, getting flatter and flatter, but not the same as the demarcation line between the top frequency of the multiverse and the bottom of the structured space associated with the zones that the source's sentience occupies. So I'll move us through this demarcation line. The floor of the lift goes through it, our platform, our legs, our lower bodies, our upper bodies, and our heads go through it. And we change back. We lose that feeling that we had outside of the source. We regain the feeling we had, the state of beingness we had inside the energies, the structured space, the volume of structured space that the source's sentience occupies. Again, I move the platform, the floor of the lift that we're occupying in another completely random direction, and therefore we start to see the outside of the sphere that is the demarcation line associated with the highest of the frequencies within the multiverse, the 397th universe, occupying the 408th frequency, and this lowest of the structure of the zones that is purely reserved for the source's sentience, for the source's own use. Clearly it also occupies the multiverse, but this is particularly reserved for source sentience. So I'll move us through it, and as we get close to it, again we see the spheres within spheres within spheres that are the representations, as we would perceive it, of the different universes within the multiverse. Again, we see the difference in this demarcation line, looking like laser light in a smoky room. So I move us through it. Again, our lift floor goes through it, and our lower legs, our knees, our thighs, our lower body, our upper body, our shoulders and our heads move through it. And now we find ourselves in, again, empty space, and above our heads is this demarcation line, again appearing like laser light in a smoky room. And I'll move us down towards another location within this universe, away from this demarcation line, so it starts to go further and further away and loses its straightness and starts to become curved. This huge, infinitesimally large and long curve, until we're so far away we can't see it. I bring us back to the point of origin where we entered into this space, this universe, the highest universe in the multiverse, where I deconstructed our lift, and I start to reconstruct it. So I rematerialize the left-hand wall, I rematerialize the back wall, I rematerialize the right-hand wall with all the buttons that show all the different levels within the multiverse, the 408 frequencies. And I rematerialize the front of the lift with the doors, and I rematerialize the roof. So now we are all together. Nobody's left behind. Nobody's outside of the source. Everybody's within the multiverse, within this lift, which has got thousands upon thousands of individuals from different aspects of our existence on the earth, all participating in this meditation and therefore linking into this event space. And I press the button with the number 0 on it. And so the lift starts to descend the frequencies, going from 408 to 407, and then 406, and then accelerating down to 404, 402, and then 400, and then accelerating again to 390, 380, 370, 360, 350, and then accelerating again to 300, 250, 200, 150, 100, 50, slowing down again at 40 and 30 and 20 and 10, and slowing down again at 8 and 6 and 4, slowing down again at 2 and 1, and finally coming to a standstill at 0. We'll just wait here a moment to normalize. Body starts to feel significantly heavy again. Our thought processes are slow, but the memory of what we've experienced in communion with the origin remains. The feeling of being omnipresent and omniscient remains. Our knowledge that we were the origin in a more cohesive and conscious state remains. So I open the door and you all start to walk out, becoming reunited with the location in event space that you normally occupy. So slowly come back into the room, slowly open your eyes, and if you have some water there, or tea, or some orange juice or any other fruit juice, please take a drink to help ground you. And thank you very much for participating in this event space, connecting with me and all of those other souls, those other aspects of their own true energetic selves, and allowing yourself to be transported not only to the highest frequency within the multiverse of the structured space that's been identified for smaller units of the source to occupy, experience, learn, evolve, but also go beyond that and further still beyond the volume of structured space that all of the sentience of the source occupies, into the location within structured space that is occupied by other source entities and the sentience that is the origin, becoming one with the origin. So I send you all much love and many thoughts over this Christmas period, and lots of love to you all. Namaste. Along with the previous meditations and lectures where it's been talking about how we can achieve collectivism, which is a really mature way of high civilization, of achieving high civilization, we've also talked about karma in a lecture in this World Satsanga. So what we're going to do is meditate on karma. Again, how we can understand within ourselves those things that are low frequency and therefore could create a need to experience something again and overcome it, or anything that is addictive to us, such as our status, what we eat, how we appear, what our roles are, and therefore how we can create a condition where we're navigating through the physical but not being of the physical or part of the physical. So let's just close our eyes. And again, if you're sitting, put your feet flat on the ground and you're have your back straight and your neck aligned with your back. If you're sitting in a cross-legged position, again, make sure your back is straight and your neck is in alignment with your back. In both situations, put your hands palm uppermost on your upper thighs. And close your eyes and gently focus on the origin of the spiritual third eye, which is in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. And I want you to just be still for a moment. Just consider or meditate on those thoughts, behaviors, and actions that you have that are actually addictive, that create an addiction to being here. You must have certain foods. You must have certain wealth. You must have certain jewelry. You must have certain clothes. You must have certain cars or a certain level of car. You must have a certain house, certain level of house. You must have a certain level of status, certain types of friends, certain type of role or job. Have people respect you. All of these things are addictive. All of these things are a function of being in the gross physical. And actually any part of the physical universe, but at various different levels of addiction associated with the frequency that we're at. So consider the things that you're addicted to. Whether you think of them as being addiction or not is immaterial. If you desire them or want them, that's addiction. If you have them and you don't need them, and you ignore them so they don't own you, that's not addiction. Now consider how you interact with individuals. How does that interaction create karma? How does that discussion create karma? The desire to collude with people, to be seen as being the same as them in their group, in their club. In a collective of like-minded people that aren't thinking and behaving and acting in a mature, karma-free way. Think of the thoughts, behaviors, and actions that you can have that create positive karma by being of service, by not expecting reward, by knowing that you're doing a good thing for the environment, by not polluting it or creating litter, by nurturing the environment, by nurturing the other functions of the environment, such as the insects and the animals, the birds, the fish, the mammals. They all have parts to play. Think about how, if something you've experienced was detrimental to you, how you might interact with those individuals in that environment, or similar individuals in a similar environment, in similar circumstances, in a way which would not invoke the low frequency response or karma between you. And then actively choosing to affect that response when you get the same circumstance with similar or same individuals in a similar or same environment. Therefore, negating the need to experience that aspect of karma again. consider how everything you do in the physical universe is potentially linked to it. That means you have to come back to understand it and master it, and therefore no longer be affected by it in a karmic way. Mastery of karma means you master the physical. You can be in the physical but not of the physical, and therefore no longer need to be in the physical to accelerate your evolutionary progression. So mastering karma, mastering how you interact with others, how you interact with yourself, how you interact with the environment, it's not only mastering those things, but mastering karma, it's also mastering the physical, and you become an ascended master in the process, no longer needing to incarnate in any function of the gross physical or any function of the higher frequencies within the physical universe ever again. Choose to have the thoughts, behaviors, and actions that don't create an addictive process. Choose to have the interactions that don't create a need to respond, to overcome, to do again. Be mature in everything you do, and again give the considered response. Not the wrong response, or any response, but the right response that creates zero karma. And in doing so, you create positive karma, dharma, which results in you rising up the frequencies, increasing your communicative bandwidth and your functionality, and getting closer to the need to move beyond the need to incarnate in the physical universe to accelerate your evolutionary progression. Just stand back in a caring, loving way, detached way, not a blaming way, and see what you think, behave, and act can cause a karmic link with the physical and other individuals within the physical. Take the active decision and desire to always be aware of how this might affect you in a karmic way. Remove your addictions to anything physical. Allow yourself to be in the physical but not of the physical. Again, you can extend this meditation for as long as you like. If you want to, you can write things down so that you can remember them in a more physical way. Remind yourself. Revisit this in meditations as often as possible to allow yourself to trawl deeply within yourself as those things that do create karma, those thoughts, behaviors, and actions that create a karmic link with the physical. So if you want to extend this meditation to any length, you can do. But for the sake of this Satsanga, let's just finish it where we are. So come back into your body, come back into the room that you're in, slowly open your eyes, and if you've got any water or any liquid to help you become more grounded afterwards. So thank you for participating in this December 2024 World Satsanga, the last Satsanga of 2024. And so I wish you pranams and namaste and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and look forward to working with you in January 2025. Again, namaste, sources, and God's love to you all. Did you see the aliens in Crete?